Hey, it's Carlos Cavallo from datingfire.com. Welcome back to this show. Hey, you know what? Dating a divorced guy, well, before you get too far in that relationship, there are some things you do need to know. Because dating a divorced guy is challenging, there's no doubt about that. If you have the right information, you can date a guy after divorce and make it work. But dating today is totally different than it used to be. And that's why we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about 7 tips for dating a divorced guy. Hey, before this train leaves the station, let's make sure we do the big 3. Number 1, make sure you like and subscribe to the videos. If you like them, why not? Number 2, make sure you turn on that notification bell indicator button thingy, whatever, next to the button. And of course, number 3, make sure if you have any questions or if you want to suggest a video, leave that down in the comments below. I mean, really, dating is so different, right? There's so many more challenges. And the one thing you don't want to be is his next divorce. Now, you might be wondering, is he ready for another relationship? Why did he get divorced before? Is he damaged goods? How do I know he'll make a commitment again? And if you take into consideration that divorce rates are only going up, only 1 out of 2 marriages stays together, well, you got to be very sure you know what you're getting into when you date a divorced guy. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter if this guy was married or just in a long-term relationship. These tips apply to any relationship when you want to be smart and make it work. So let's just jump right in with tip number 1, know how deep the pool is. Would you ever jump into a swimming pool without knowing how deep the water is? Well, then you definitely would never jump into a relationship where you didn't know what was going on with him and why it ended. You owe it to yourself to find out what his history is. If you don't know what you're getting into, you're very likely to step on a landmine at some point. Every man has history, right? And the more you know about it, the better off you are. I mean, just think about it. Would you buy a car without at least finding out what the reviews said about it? Would you buy a house without having an inspector check it out? Of course not. Knowing everything you can about him is absolutely essential if you want to make the relationship work. Now, one thing you should not try to do is to learn everything about him on the first date or 2. Take your time. Collect your data. On date number 1 and date number 2, you're just focusing on listening in between the lines with them. Don't let your fantasies start to pull you into dreaming about your wedding dress yet. That might sound a little bit funny, but you'd be surprised how many women make a decision about a man based on initial chemistry. And men do the exact same thing, okay? As the relationship progresses, you should know about why he got divorced. And you should also ask him one very important question. What do you think the biggest thing that caused your relationship to fail was? Then listen very carefully to what he says next. Take mental note of where he places the blame. If he blames both him and her, that's an excellent sign. It means he knows he had a part in it. Red flag, if he says that it was all her fault, that's a man you should probably run away from. Now, don't forget to share a little bit of your history too. If you were married before, let him know about your relationship. Especially let him know what you learned from it. And let him know what your standards are now. Tip number 2, dating a divorced guy, is to be a smart turtle. A smart turtle knows that slow and steady wins the race. He also knows when to not run across the road or the highway, but you get what I mean. Keep in mind, the man who has come out of a divorce takes much longer to get over the loss of his marriage. Divorce hits a man much harder than it does a woman. Now, I know this may feel strangely contrary, but it's true. Men do not have the same emotional resiliency to bounce back that women do. Men who get divorced are depressed more often and very often commit suicide much more frequently as well. It's not a pretty picture, but it's true. In study after study, and I'm going to quote one right here for you right now, men were more vulnerable to the adverse effects of divorce, including larger health declines and lower subjective well-being. That means how good he felt about himself after separation. He had higher risk of adopting bad health habits, elevated mortality, that means they die more, disproportionate declines in satisfaction with family life, higher dissatisfaction with custodial arrangements, and greater feelings of loneliness and social isolation. Now, that doesn't paint a very positive picture, does it? Now that you understand this, though, you might also understand why men are very cautious after a divorce or separation. In order for him to even think about a new relationship, he has to feel safe in your relationship, which means you need to go the extra mile to make him feel safe with you. You're going to have to take a lot of extra time with this guy. He's going to be very gun-shy about jumping into a commitment for sure, which means you need to also be patient and understand that it might take him quite a while before he's ready for something long-term. In fact, it's most likely that he'll just want to have fun if it's just a recent divorce. Now, you should probably be playing Cyndi Lauper right about now. Boys just want to have fun. If you expect anything different from this relationship, think back and see if you can remember a time when he said he was ready for a relationship and a big commitment. I'm betting he probably never did. Tip number 3, watch out for the ex talk. One of the signs you have to watch out for is how much this guy talks about his ex-wife or his ex-girlfriend. Some people just talk about their ex a little too much after the breakup, and what that means is there's a lot of baggage there for their old flame. If this guy's talking about his ex a lot, and it doesn't matter whether it's positive or negative talk, it should be a warning sign to you. He probably needs a little bit more time to heal. You should especially pay attention to the emotions that come up for him when he does talk about his ex. Smell it a little bit. Does it smell like anger, or does he seem like he goes off into his own headspace as if maybe he wants to win her back? You might want to just let this guy go and let some other woman go through hell. You don't deserve it. All right, tip number 4 is dating a divorced man, time limits. If he's been divorced for less than 6 months, don't go near him. Unless their marriage was breaking down for the last few years, there's no way this guy is ready to date again. And he definitely doesn't want to jump into another commitment, even if he says he does. And even then, he probably still needs time to get over being alone. There's no substitute for taking time to yourself to get over a relationship that went bad. And the same is true for you, by the way. You generally need about 1 month alone. Yeah, you heard me. Alone means not in a relationship. For every year that you're in a long-term relationship. And if you were married, you should probably double that. Most people are simply too raw and not ready right out of a failed marriage. No matter how much you want it to happen, more than likely you're going to end up getting crushed, heartbroken. You might think, oh, it's different for us. We know it's not, right? Trust me when I tell you that the headspace that he is in is a place you do not want to be with right now. Also, it'll probably take him twice as long as it would take a woman to get over the same situation. Consider that. So now you can see that a guy who has been married for, say, 10 years probably needs the better part of a year or more just to get his feet back on the ground. He's not going to be ready for you, no matter how much loving and nurturing you give him. There's an old saying, 3 women can't make a baby in 3 months. Some things have to take their time. Tip number 5, the raw and the ugly. You might find yourself in the variety of situations with a divorced guy. You might watch out for the red flags you see as you date him. Here's a red flag: cheating. Now be sure to find out if there was any cheating in the previous relationship, and especially who did it. I hope I don't have to explain why you need to know if he cheated on her, right? But newsflash, you are interviewing for her old job. Oh, and if she cheated on him, you need to be especially careful because he's going to have a lot of trust issues, and that also means jealousy issues. Another red flag to watch out for is the king of his world. The truth is that the first year after any divorce for a guy is filled with self-exploration. He's going to want to go off and do the things he couldn't do when he was married. And you can double down on that if she was a nag or a nasty woman. Not that those people exist, right? Keep in mind that he will need to go out and have some fun before he's ready to make you his priority. Another red flag check to watch out for is watch out for the rebounding. Men who get out of the divorce are usually not looking to jump right into having sex with just one person again. All right, sorry. But especially if they associated their last marriage with oppression instead of monogamy. Men's emotions often get tied up in their physical relationships in a very weird way. He may think he's in love with you, but what he really needs is validation. That means he may only be boinking you, no matter what he says to the contrary. Rebounds are painful, and if you don't see it coming, well, or if you thought things were different than they actually are, you could be in for a huge surprise. Don't get blindsided. Watch his behavior, see how healthy he looks, and just because what you think is a relationship could just be sex with him. Tip number 6 for dating a divorced man is, well, let's talk about the positive, right? I'd be pretty negligent if I told you that there aren't a ton of positive reasons to date a divorced guy, right? Here's just a few. Experience. If he's looking to get into a new relationship, chances are he probably learned quite a bit about relationships in his marriage. He learned the importance of communication. He learned the importance of connection, right? And if he's willing to start again and do this thing all over again, that means his heart is into it, and the guy obviously must want a lasting relationship. Now, you did it once, he'll do it again. Well, the fact is that if he made a commitment like this before, chances are he knows and understands what it means to commit, and that means he's a committer, not a runner. And when a guy wants a long-term relationship, and most men do, he's going to eventually want to settle down again. It's best for you if you happen to be there when he finally does want to commit. It's a fact of life. According to the National Survey for Family Growth, the chances of a first marriage transitioning from being separated to divorce is 53% within 1 year. for women that are in the age bracket of 15 to 44. You're probably getting married a little early if you're 15, but you get the point, right? The chance for separation going to divorce is 86% within 5 years. Okay, the good side of that statistic is that only 10% of second marriages will go from separation to divorce. Why? Because they've already been through that before, and they know that the grass isn't really any greener. You got to work these things out. Yes, there is hope if we can just learn from our mistakes. My wife has a little term for first marriages because she was married before as well. She calls them the pancake marriage, the first pancake marriage. You know those first pancakes you pour, they don't look so right, so you toss them out. You get the metaphor, right? By the way, if you want to hold out for a guy who has never been married just so you can be his one and only, you're probably dreaming. You may be holding out for the rest of your life, given that as you get older, most guys are likely to have had a marriage in their background and maybe even previously married with kids. Oh wait, I still need to tell you about the kids. Tip number 7, are you ready to be mom again? It's very likely that a guy who's divorced is also going to have children from his previous wife, so make sure that you are ready to be an instant mom. I hope that scared you enough to help you put on the brakes there. Yes, the fact is that even if you have had your own children, this guy might have had his own, which means you now have 2 different sets of kids to deal with. Did you ever watch Brady Bunch growing up? Yeah, well, which for some people can be both good and bad. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that you might not want to have more children if you're young enough. Or if you're older, you might decide that you're finished with the baby making or having more kids. But the reality is you may inherit more kids. So you want to consider this before dating a divorced man who might have more family for you. If he's a little bit older, he may have had teenagers. I'm going to wait for a few seconds to let that really soak in for effect. So you do have to deal with the possibility that you might be the evil stepmom, and you may have a few hurdles in front of you if you want to connect with his kids. Any way you look at this, it can be a challenge for you that you have to be aware of. Now, if I've made it sound like dating a divorced guy is risky, well, it's because it absolutely is. It's just as deadly dating a divorced woman. In our rush to feel attractive and desirable again, inevitably we race into a new relationship way too fast. Most guys who are right out of a marriage, right out of a divorce, they need time to sow their wild oats. No matter what he says to the contrary, you have to believe that he is not ready for a long-term relationship quite yet, if he's fresh out of that. But if it's been a little while, you're fine. Oh, in order for him to marry you though, in order for him to commit to a relationship with you, he needs one more thing. A little bonus tip here for dating a divorcee. Do what she couldn't do. What most women never really realize is how to connect with a man in a meaningful way. This usually leads to the relationship slowly disintegrating over time, both sexually and emotionally as well. In fact, it's very likely that the reason this man got divorced was because his wife couldn't really make a connection with him. She may have even blamed that on him too. Now, the most important skill for a woman is understanding how to make a connection with a man. Men are notoriously difficult to read. You may also find a real challenge in reaching his emotions, not because they don't exist, but because most men don't broadcast their emotions. Now, if you're used to communicating with other women more than men, that can be a real challenge for you. Now, the good news is, it's an easy skill to acquire. There are secret little hacks that make him reach out to you and talk to you about his feelings. Do you know what they are? Well, all you got to know is how to read his signals. If you've ever talked with a man and wondered what he was thinking, you know what I mean. There's lots of signals to watch out for. You've got to watch for when he goes silent. You've got to watch for when he talks about certain things. What does it mean when he says this? What does it mean when he does that? You may have even asked him what he was thinking, which is a huge mistake usually. And I'll bet you probably didn't really find out what you're hoping to discover by asking that question, right? The fact is that men do give off very clear signals as to how he's thinking and feeling about you. And if you don't know how to read those signals, he's not going to feel connected to you. In fact, it's going to feel a major disconnect, which is one of the biggest reasons that men pull away from women in a relationship. Now, you also need to know what these signals are, but you also need to know what the mistakes are that women make. There are 7 really big mistakes that women make that typically make men pull away from a relationship, or even cut it off or ghost you completely. Do you know what those signals are? Well, guess what? I've got a free ebook to show you what those are. All you got to do is go to this little link you see below me here. That's right. That's datingfire.com/free book. datingfire.com/free book. It's a little PDF ebook, fairly short and sweet, and it gives you the straight up advice on exactly what makes men pull away from relationships. And you can take it from me because, number one, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing it since 2002. And then I've also been a man dating women for at least the better part of my life. We're not going to go into my age right now, but I've had plenty of experience there. And I can tell you exactly what made me stop a relationship dead in its tracks. Why I walked away from a woman who was probably right for me in a lot of ways. And I'll tell you all that stuff in the book. Look, it really comes down to this. Most women just need to not make certain mistakes and they'll be fine. A lot of women are worried about doing the super right things, making the signals that make him say yes, but really you just gotta watch out for the signals that make him say no way. If you can avoid those, most guys will realize, oh my God, this is actually kind of cool. It's low maintenance. I don't feel like I'm pressured. I'm feeling good and happy. If he feels like that, that's all he needs to keep going and move into long-term commitment with you. And yes, even propose to you, even get down on one knee, offer up that ring to you and ask you to marry him. That's why we do it, is because we know, number one, this woman is going to be a great fit for our life, and number two, we can't live without her, because it is hard for a guy to find a woman he can connect with. Avoid these 7 mistakes and you don't have to worry about that disconnection with him. So go on over and get it. It's datingfire.com/free book. You can get it over there, and you'll get on my free newsletter, and you'll get a whole bunch of other cool free stuff. I've even got a video. I haven't even told you about that. There's a cool video that goes along with this ebook. Watch that too. Hey, this is Carlos Cavallo from datingfire.com. Before you run away, do the big 3. Number 1, make sure you like and subscribe to the videos. If you're here with me now, you must have liked them enough to stick around, so why not? And number 2, make sure you turn on the reminders, that little bell icon next to the button, so that you know when next week's comes out. And number 3, if you have any questions or comments or you want a video made, leave that down in the comments section below. Hey, this is Carlos Cavallo from datingfire.com. As always, live and love with passion.